All right, Sandra, let's bring in New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. She has introduced bipartisan legislation to counter China's spreading influence around the world. Let's talk about this call between the president and Xi Jinping. I mean, clearly China's trying to have it both ways here. With one hand, they're holding Putin sort of at arm's length, but with the other kind of tacitly supporting him. This idea of secondary sanctions, China clearly doesn't like that. We don't know if that was put on the table. Should it be?
Yeah, actually, it should be. But China poses the greatest risk to our nation than any other country on earth. I mean, they are right now a huge national security threat, an economic threat, and they use that influence around the world, which is why I introduced the China Watcher Act. It's actually a bipartisan bill that it would put our national security teams and our Secretary of State and state officers around the world to find and look for malign activities with China to leverage their economic and military strength with countries around the world, because obviously their mission is to be the world dominant power. So do they care about what's happening in Russia and Ukraine? A little bit, just because they really see themselves rising above both us and the United States and rising above Russia. So my feeling is that, we should be continuing to watch China and continue to watch what they're doing. We need to corner them. No one has ever really confronted China until the last administration. I'm concerned, as you just indicated, why has our president not put out any details of the call, and why are we letting a Chinese foreign minister talk about the malign activities, who, by the way, recently, just a day or so ago, said we were the ones causing, the United States and NATO were the ones wreaking havoc and carnage and murder in Ukraine, not the Russians. Yeah. So we cannot afford to let them team up together.
In terms of putting out readouts, the White House historically has been behind the opposing country when it comes to putting out readouts. Your colleague from Florida, Congressman Michael Watts, thinks that this is an opportunity for China to turn Russia into something of a vassal state. Listen to what he said earlier today.
And I think at longer term, Chinese banks are going to see a buying opportunity in Russia, buying up critical minerals, buying up mines, and buying up that energy sector as they continue to try to dominate around the world. And I think Xi sees an opportunity to put Putin in his pocket and create a dependency there, like literally.
You talked a second ago about China rising above the United States, rising above Russia. What Congressman Waltz there is saying that he wants to make, or Chinese President Xi Jinping wants to make Putin dependent on China as sort of their only friend that they can count on.
Absolutely. They'd like to have everyone dependent on them. And what better way to do that than through being able to access the minerals and really just, taking advantage of Russia. They don't look at things and judge them based on, humanitarian issues. They don't have a democratic principles. They're an authoritarian regime, and everything is in the strategic interest of preserving that regime, whether it's needing the minerals, whether it's getting into cyberspace, as my colleague Seth Moulton referred to. So they're a malign influencer. That's what they want. They want world dominance. They're willing to use Russia, the United States, whatever faction they can to build their power, and that's exactly what they're doing.
China's leverage over the United States is the fact that they make all our stuff.
Yes.
But we have economic leverage over them, too. We could say to Xi Jinping, look, we're not going to continue to make our stuff there in China. We're going to make it in Vietnam. We're going to make it in Malaysia. We're going to make it in South America. Start withdrawing American manufacturing from there.
Absolutely. Well,
could we do that, or are we so addicted to cheap Chinese labor that they'll always hold this cudgel over us?
Well, we have to start doing that, or we're going to see us not being the world's domination and not the world's leader. So.
Yeah, I mean, if they make everything from our drugs to our stuffed animals.
Well, look at Taiwan. This is another. China is watching our every move in Ukraine. If we don't stop Putin's advance in Ukraine, you're going to see the Chinese re-gauging what they're going to do in Taiwan to take over, where, 85% of the chips are made for our computers, our phones, everything else, not to mention the batteries for solar power. And again, we didn't even get into energy. Energy is the issue, and the Democrats are handcuffing us with their refusal to accept the fact that fossil fuels are part of an all-of-the-above strategy for energy. We need to focus on that. I come from a district in upstate New York where we have some of the richest shale reserves. The Utica and Marcellus shale are mostly in my district. We can't tap them, and that would give us energy independence and prosperity.
But that's not the federal government stopping you from doing that. Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, good to talk to you. Thank you.